tonight you drift through the quiet world of cats into the still and amber-lit hours where they fold themselves into warmth and breathe slowly and move like soft shadows along the very edge of sleep. Already the air around you carries that particular stillness that gathers in a room wherever a cat has been sleeping for a long while. You can feel it just at the center of your chest, a soft warmth beginning there, quiet and unhurried. It is the kind of warmth that comes from something breathing slowly and contentedly beside you. Breathe in now, slowly and all the way down, and feel that warmth deepen. Breathe out slowly and let it begin to move. It spreads outward along your shoulders, down through your arms, the way a purr seems to travel through a still room without asking permission. Breathe in again, easy and low. Breathe out. The warmth continues, drifting down through your belly, your hips, your thighs, all the way to the soles of your feet, and wherever it reaches, the muscles let go, softening and settling the way a cat's whole body melts into the floor when it finally sleeps. Your hands are heavy. Your eyelids are growing heavy too. Let them close, or let them rest the way a cat rests them, barely open. The world grown soft and unimportant beyond their edge. Breathe in slow. Breathe out slower still. You are in a low, warm room. The light is dim and golden, the color of late afternoon pressing through a gauze curtain, though the evening has long since come outside and the window is dark. The room holds its warmth the way old wood does, slowly and steadily, without effort or announcement. There is a smell of dry cedar and something faintly floral, lavender perhaps, drifting from a small bundle of dried stems hanging near the window. Beneath that, the deeper and more particular scent of a warm animal, of fur and sleep and time. The curtain stirs once, very gently, and goes still, and the room settles back into its quiet, like water finding its level. A cat is somewhere near you. You cannot quite see her yet, but you can sense the small weight of her presence, the way you sense a candle flame without turning toward it. A gentle warmth at the edge of your awareness. The room has changed around her, grown softer and more purposeful. You hear nothing at all, and yet the space does not feel empty. It feels the way a room feels when something warm and breathing has settled into it and decided, without reservation, to stay. Then you see them. Two small points of amber light, half closed, drifting closer through the dimness. They hold that expression cats carry when they have decided the world is safe and uninteresting, and there is no reason whatsoever to remain fully awake. The amber is deep and warm, the color of honey held up to a single candle, glowing without urgency, without demand. Each slow blink takes a long time to complete, the upper lid descending with a patience that feels almost ceremonial, the lower lid rising gently to meet it. And for that long moment, the whole world narrows to a warm, thin crescent of gold, and then to nothing. And then the gold returns, quieter than before, softer than before. She steps closer without sound. That is the quality of a cat's movement that most stills the human mind. The complete absence of impact. Each paw placed as though the floor were something rare and dear. You feel the small press of her arrival at the edge of your warmth rather than hear it. She circles once, following some ancient interior compass that only she can read. And then she folds herself into a neat curve beside you, tucks her nose into the warmth beneath her tail, and breathes out long and slow. Her fur is the color of dark caramel in the low light, thick and soft, and it rises and falls with her breathing in the faintest possible movement, like a far tide, like a slow breath taken by the room itself. You rest your hand near her, not quite touching, close enough to feel the warmth her body gives off, steady and generous. That warmth cats seem always to carry, as though they were made partly of it. A soft sound begins, low and continuous. A purr felt more than heard, traveling up through the still air between you. The amber eyes open again, just partway, and regard you with a calm that has no bottom and no edge. There is nothing in that gaze that asks for anything. There is only a quiet, ancient recognition, the kind that needs no words and requires no response. She has looked at the room and looked at you and found both acceptable, and this is, in the warm and wordless language of cats, a very lovely thing. You breathe in. She breathes out. The room holds both breaths gently together and asks nothing more. Somewhere at the very edge of your hearing, another cat moves, only the softest whisper of paws on a fabric surface, one small sound, and then silence closes back over it. The lavender is faint and sweet in the air. The curtain is motionless now. The amber eyes beside you are nearly closed, just the thinnest remaining crescent of gold, like light held beneath a door in a house where everyone has gone to sleep for the night. The warmth that began in your chest has settled everywhere now. It is in your hands, in your jaw, in the soft, tired place behind your eyes. Your breathing has found its own slow rhythm, breathing in long and easy, breathing out a little longer still, matching the small, warm body beside you, matching the patient and unhurried dark. More amber drifts at the far edge of the room. Another pair of half-closed eyes appearing softly out of the dimness. as gentle as two candle flames seen through still water. This cat is smaller, carrying that particular boneless quiet of a creature that has never known alarm or urgency. She does not approach. She simply folds herself down into a comfortable arrangement at a peaceful distance and closes her eyes all the way with a slow and unhurried contentment the room breathes. You breathe. The cats breathe, each in their own soft and unhurried time. And all those quiet rhythms move together in the warm dark, going nowhere, needing nothing, asking nothing of you or of the night. The amber light is very faint now, almost gone. Just a warm memory of gold resting in the gentle dark. You do not need to follow it anywhere at all. You are already here, already still, already held by the same quiet that holds this room and the sleeping cats, and the slow, warm air moving softly between you all. The thrum begins somewhere below thought. It settles into you before you quite notice it arriving. A slow vibration that has no clear beginning and no clear end. It moves through you like something ancient and patient, like the first press of a wave against a distant shore, felt before it is heard, known before it is understood. You become aware of it gradually, the same wordless certainty of warmth spreading beneath a heavy blanket. Without any single moment you could point to and call its arrival, there is a small body nearby. You can feel the faint heat of it through cloth, through skin, through whatever little distance remains between you and this quiet creature. The fur where your hand rests is impossibly soft. It yields without resistance, curling around your fingers in the most undemanding welcome. It has no temperature you could name precisely. It is simply the right warmth, and it has no condition attached. It asks nothing. It simply arrives and stays. The purr moves up from the cat's chest and into yours. It does not knock or announce itself. It simply travels, the same patient migration of heat through stone on a long afternoon, unhurried, thorough, filling every small cavity of silence it finds. Your ribs hold it for a moment and then pass it gently along. Your shoulders receive it and release. Your jaw, which you had not known was held, loosens by a small private fraction. The room around you is quiet. Not the quiet of absence, but the quiet of everything already settled. A curtain hangs perfectly still. The faint outline of it against the window is soft, the light beyond it a pale and diffuse blue-gray, neither night nor morning, but some gentle nowhere in between. Objects in the room have lost their sharpness. The corner of the shelf, the fold of a chair, these things exist now as impressions rather than facts. Nothing here is asking to be looked at. Nothing is asking for anything at all. The scent in the air is warm and faintly herbal, the kind that comes from old wood and slow evenings and sleep that has visited this room many times before. There is something beneath it, something skin close and clean, like sun on cotton left to dry through an entire undisturbed afternoon. The cat carries this scent too, a warmth that belongs only to creatures who have spent their hours in pure and untroubled comfort. The purr deepens. It does not grow louder. It grows slower, more settled, as though the creature beside you has found the very center of its own calm and rested there. You feel it in your sternum now, a low and steady presence, not unpleasant, not insistent, simply there, a hum beneath the hum of everything, a tide that has come in only as far as it needs to and then stilled. Your fingers rest in fur. You are not petting, not stroking. You are simply present in the texture, the small individual softness of each strand, the faint give of warmth beneath it. The body below your hand rises and falls, so slowly, as though breathing here is something that happens without effort, without management, without any need for you to oversee it. You can feel the small rib cage moving in its rhythm, delicate as anything, and absolutely certain. The purr fills your ears the same patient way water fills a low place, gently, completely, without hurry or force. Between one breath and the next, you stop hearing it as a sound and begin to feel it as a condition. The way you feel the steadiness of a floor beneath you, constant, reliable, not noticed because it is always there. The quiet beneath the purr is quieter for having it. This is the kind of stillness that is made, not found. Somewhere at the far reach of the room, a shadow holds its shape. It is not a troubling shadow. It is the kind that has always lived there, in the corner near the low shelf, undisturbed and mild. The cat's tail, draped across the foot of the bed, moves once, just the tip of it, a small, slow arc, and then does not move again. Small gestures, small countries of peace. A sound reaches you from very far away, something like wind moving through leaves at the far end of a field, or rain beginning somewhere beyond the window, soft enough that you are not sure it is there at all. It does not need you to decide. It passes through and leaves the silence more complete. The cat does not stir at it. Nothing stirs. Everything has already made its peace with the ordinary sounds of the night. The texture of the sheets holds you. The fabric is faintly cool where it has not been touched, faintly warm where you have been. Your body has found the surface beneath it, not with any sudden decision, but by slow and mutual agreement. Your back knows the bed. Your legs have spread their weight without instruction. You could rest here for a very long time. You already are. The purr drops one more gentle register, finding a depth that seems almost below sound. It has the quality now of something that was always here, something that predates this moment and will outlast it. A low current in things, ancient in its patience, certain in its rhythm. There is nothing it is moving toward. There is nowhere it is going. The cat shifts once, just barely, settling more fully into the small space it has claimed. You feel the redistribution of its warmth, a slight new pressure along your side, the adjustment of something already comfortable becoming more so. It tucks its nose beneath a paw, perhaps. You cannot see exactly. You do not need to see. The knowledge of it is enough, the sense of a small and complete creature finding its completion in the simplest possible arrangement of warmth and stillness and trust. The light against the curtain has softened further. The room floats now in time rather than occupying it. A little bluer, a little further from any particular hour. You are floating too, not anxiously, not with any feeling of falling, simply without weight, with the purr as a thread, a low and warm sound running through the fabric of the quiet, and keeping it whole. There is nothing required of you. There has not been for some time. The cat already understood this. It settled into that understanding long before you arrived at it yourself. And now you arrive too, gently, without announcement, without effort. The tide has found its shore. You are here at the pale and quiet border of sleep, resting, not retreating, not pressing further forward, held in place by nothing more than the soft and steady rhythm of a small chest rising and falling beside you, patient as the tide, certain as the dark. The fur beneath your fingers holds warmth the way old stone walls hold an afternoon sun, slowly, deeply, long after the light itself has moved on. It does not demand anything of you. It simply gives a steady, mild heat rising through your palm and spreading gently along your wrist, your forearm, settling somewhere in your shoulder. The warmth is patient. It has been patient for centuries, carried quietly in the bodies of cats who chose window ledges and hearthstones and the folded corners of linen for their resting. There is a scent folded into that warmth. It rises softly, not sharp, not sweet in any urgent way. It is something drier than that and older. Sunlit dust on a windowsill where afternoon arrived without hurry and left the same way. Dry wood shelving holding books that have not moved in years. A particular stillness that gathers in rooms where nothing much has happened for a long time, and nothing needs to. The scent of the fur carries all of that. It is not perfume, it is the scent of unhurried living, of sleep taken without apology, of hours unaccounted for and undisturbed. Your hand settles deeper into the thick coat. The fur separates gently around your fingers, finding its own arrangement, then settling again. Beneath the outer layer lies something softer, almost imperceptible, a fine warmth you could mistake for your own if you were not paying such close and drowsy attention. The skin below is smooth and warm, as sun-touched cloth left folded on a shelf. And somewhere below that, quiet ribs move in a rhythm so slow, it seems like something the whole room is doing. Not just one small breathing creature in it. The light in the room is pale and low, a thin suggestion of lamplight gathered against the far wall. Nothing stands out in it. Objects blur softly at their outlines, a chair becoming a gentle shape, a curtain becoming a pale wash of nothing in particular. The world narrows pleasantly. It draws inward as water draws toward its own still center on a windless afternoon. The cat shifts, barely. One paw moves a fraction of an inch and rests again. The fur along the side rises and falls, and you follow it without meaning to. The motion entering you without urgency, settling somewhere calm and central, without force, without announcement. That scent rises again as the warmth increases beneath your hand. It is the scent of a room in summer that has been closed and calm for days. Sunlight fell on old upholstery, on wooden floorboards, on the dust that rests undisturbed in corners where no one reaches. It gathered there, warmly, slowly. A cat slept in the center of it all, adding her own mild warmth to the air, and the whole room became one single note of peacefulness held without effort. That is the scent now. It arrives without announcing itself and stays. You notice the sound of quiet. Not silence exactly, but quiet, that particular quality of sound that exists only when everything around is resting. A faint settling in the walls, a sound a house makes when it trusts the night. Outside, something distant and soft, a rustling, the movement of leaves in a small and passing breath of air, and then nothing again, just the broad, flat calm of a late hour lying down across the world. The fur along the spine holds a gentle ridge of warmth. Your palm rests there and receives it. The heat moves up through the center of your hand and arrives somewhere behind your eyes as a kind of ease, a loosening that asks nothing of you except to let it happen. Your shoulders drop a little. The muscles along your jaw release something they had been holding without your knowing. An old room holds its history in its air. Seasons come through such a room. Spring light through old glass. Summer dust drifting slowly. Autumn arriving as a change in smell before anything else. A cat who has spent years in a room like that carries something of those seasons in her fur. You breathe it in without trying. It is warm and dry and faintly botanical. Old lavender, perhaps, or the ghost of cedar from a drawer opened and closed 1,000 quiet mornings. It has the quality of things that were loved gently and for a long time. The coat shifts slightly with each breath. Inhalation lifts it barely. Exhalation lets it fall. You find yourself attending to this, the gentle lift and fall, as if nothing else in the world quite merits such soft noticing. It does not require you to do anything. It simply continues, steady and mild, a small proof that something living and content is resting close by. Warmth spreads from your hand down into your side, and from your side into the long, slow center of you. The body takes such warmth gladly, without ceremony, as it takes sleep, as it takes the first loosening of a late evening, receiving without effort what is offered freely. Your fingers rest in the fur, and the fur rests against your fingers, and neither asks the other for more than this. The room holds its soft and ancient patience. The lamp against the far wall does not flicker. A last trace of that dry, warm scent arrives and does not hurry away. Old wood, old quiet, old afternoon sunlight pressed into something warm and living and breathing evenly beside you. The sounds are very small now. A shift of fabric, the almost sound of fur rising and falling. A slow and distant, quiet settling over everything like light cloth coming to rest. The room draws its breath and holds it gently, and you are part of that holding, unhurried and warm, and without need of anywhere else to be. Something in your chest has grown soft, not hollow, but open, as a room grows open when all the windows are closed and all the lights are low, and the only warmth is the warmth already gathered there, patient and asking nothing. Your hand rests in the warm fur. The scent of old sun and quiet rooms rests in the air around you. The body of the cat rises and falls, rises and falls. You are warm. You are settled. The world is very small and very gentle, and made almost entirely of this. The small weight shifts once more, and then holds still. every tiny bone finds its angle against your side, pressing in with a patience that seems to belong to older, slower things. There is a knuckle of shoulder, a curved ridge of spine, the faint notch of a hip, smaller than your thumb. Each one settles into its particular place against you, and the whole shape of the animal grows quiet, as though the choosing is finally done. Your ribs carry the warmth of it now, not the sharp warmth of something just arrived, but the deep, penetrating warmth of something that has been resting long enough to match your own temperature almost perfectly. The two of you are becoming one soft thing together, held in the same slow drift. You notice the breathing. It moves through the cat in a rhythm so unhurried, it seems barely there at all. A small chest expands, a small chest softens, and each cycle is shorter than yours, and yet somehow more deliberate, as if each breath is chosen rather than needed. Your own breathing finds it, without any effort on your part, and the two of you settle into something shared. Against your side, the fur has a texture like worn flannel, like a fabric washed so many times. It has given up all roughness and kept only the softness. You are aware of it without quite touching it, the way a nearby warmth announces itself before contact. The individual hairs lie flat and overlapping, each one so fine it barely registers alone. But together, they make something dense and plush, something your skin recognizes as comfort without needing to think about why. The room holds a particular quality of sound now. It is not silence exactly. Silence has a sharpness to it, an absence that makes itself known. This is different. This is sound reduced to its gentlest possible form. There may be the faint settle of the building around you, the small tick of something cooling, the faraway murmur of a street finding its late-night quiet. But over all of it, closest to you, is the cat's breath moving in and out with its steady, private industry, and beneath the breath, barely there, and yet filling everything, the purr continues. It has changed in character from when it began. It is no longer announcing itself. It has become ambient, like the hum of a refrigerator in a distant kitchen, or the low drone of power lines on a summer afternoon in some open field. You do not hear it so much as sense it distributed through your ribs, through the soft tissue beneath your skin, a vibration so gentle it is more like a memory of sound than sound itself. Your hand rests somewhere near the cat without purpose. Maybe your fingers are curled loosely at the edge of warm fur. Maybe your palm has come to rest along a flank that rises with each breath in a motion almost too small to measure. fur there is especially soft, soft enough to pull you slightly towards sleep on its own. A texture so yielding and so warm that your hand has no reason to move, no reason to do anything at all. There is a faint smell that belongs to this moment. It is very subtle and very clean and carries something of dried grass, something of a room kept closed through a long afternoon, something that is neither sweet nor sharp, but sits exactly between the two. It is the smell of an animal at ease, of warmth given freely, of company offered without condition. You breathe it in without naming it, and it goes somewhere deep. The cat's ears, in the low light, are translucent at their tips. The fine inner hairs catch whatever little light the room still holds, and they glow faintly, the palest rose gold barely there, the color of something nearly extinguished. One ear pivots once, very slowly, tracking some sound too distant for you to register, and then settles again. The movement is so unhurried, it seems like part of a dream someone else is having. Every so often, a small muscle somewhere in the cat twitches, a paw flexes, the toes spreading for a moment before folding back. A whisker shifts against your arm with no more weight than a thought. These are the small, involuntary movements of a creature already deep in its own sleep, already moving through whatever quiet territory animals travel when their eyes are closed and their bones are still. You are welcome in the edges of that territory. You are near enough to feel its pull. The weight on your ribs does not press. It simply rests. There is a difference, and you know it now. Pressing implies effort, implies intention, implies some small resistance to be overcome. This is nothing like that. This is pure surrender to gravity, pure trust in the surface beneath, a giving over so complete that the cat and your body become indistinguishable from the same piece of softness. Something about that knowledge loosens a thing in your chest, some small held tension you had not noticed carrying. The room has grown darker without your noticing. Or perhaps your eyes have simply adjusted to what was already there, and the darkness feels deeper now because you have stopped measuring it. The shapes around you are soft and general. The corners of things have gone away. What remains is warmth and weight, and the sound of two kinds of breathing wound loosely around each other like two threads of the same slow river. Your thoughts, if you are still having them, have lost their edges. They come now as images rather than sentences. A window, a field in early morning, a room you once knew that smelled of old wood and something faintly floral. They arrive without requiring anything of you, and they drift without needing to be completed. You let them pass the way you let the sound of distant rain pass, with a kind of grateful indifference, a willingness to simply let things move through. The small bones shift once more, settling even deeper into stillness. The cat sighs, a barely audible exhalation, not of tiredness, but of arrival, of a creature communicating in its quiet way that this is exactly where it means to be. A paw that was loose now curls slightly, finding purchase against your side with a tenderness so unguarded it asks nothing of you in return. The claws stay folded, soft as velvet at their tips, and the whole small architecture of the animal becomes heavy in the most peaceful way, heavier even than before, as though sleep has added actual weight to those fine, unhurried bones. And here, beneath that warmth, beneath the steady and faint percussion of a small heart pressed against your side, something in you has already begun to go quiet. Not the quietness of trying, the quietness of allowing, the soft and thorough quietness of a room where two living things have simply agreed, without words, to rest together in the dark. The frequency itself sits below what you would ordinarily call sound. 25 hertz is closer to a sensation than a noise, a slow current of feeling that moves through matter rather than across it. You do not hear it so much as receive it. It finds its way into the oldest, densest parts of you, the long bones of your legs, the quiet architecture of your spine, the broad, flat planes of your shoulder blades, resting heavy now against whatever holds you. It begins somewhere in the small animal settled near you. The source of it is deep, tucked below fur and skin, and the thin cage of narrow ribs. It comes from some ancient and patient mechanism, a process that asks nothing of the creature producing it, that requires no effort, no decision, no deliberate intention, only rest. And so it simply continues, this invisible threading, this soft, mechanical murmur pressed gently outward in all directions at once. You feel it first where the warmth of that small body makes contact with your own, not in any dramatic way, not like a shiver, not like a surge, more like the slow warming of a stone that has been sitting in still afternoon light for hours, a gradual deepening of sensation that you only notice once it has already been happening for some time. The skin there feels held, not pressed, not weighted, simply held, as though the air itself had grown just slightly more attentive. From that first point of contact, the vibration moves inward. It follows the channels your body has always kept open for such quiet things. It travels along the undersides of your arms, through the soft hollow at the inside of your elbow, down through the wide and patient bones of your hips, which are sinking now, millimeter by millimeter, into the surface beneath you. Your skeleton, which you so rarely stop to think about, which carries you faithfully through every hour of every waking day, without a single word of acknowledgement from you, is receiving something gentle tonight. Something that asks it only to be still. The fur beneath your fingers, if your hand has found its way there, is extraordinarily fine near the temple, soft in a way that has no roughness anywhere in it. It is the kind of softness that seems to move toward your touch rather than merely accept it. A warmth that is alive and slow and entirely without urgency. Your fingertips settle into it without pressure. They simply rest there, reading its rise and its quiet and the faint cycling pulse of something breathing beneath it. The room around you has taken on a particular softness. Whatever light remains has gathered itself into the far edges of the space, leaving the air near you dim and close and mild. You can make out the pale curve of a wall, the vague shape of something familiar resting on a surface a little way off. Nothing demands your attention. Everything simply exists at the correct and comfortable distance. Even your own thoughts have begun to drift toward that same soft periphery, growing less insistent, less formed, trailing off in the direction of somewhere gentle. Your eyelids, if they were still open, would find nothing sharp to land on. The world has gone pleasantly blurred, its edges softened into a single continuous murmur of gray and silver and pale. Colors have quieted into their most restful versions of themselves. Whatever you face when you turn toward rest holds no demands. Even textures seem gentle from here, the rough and the smooth having agreed, for now, to offer only their softest arguments. You notice a faint cool scent beneath all the others, something faintly green and mild, like a window left just slightly ajar on a windless night, like the memory of linen that has been folded slowly and kept in a quiet drawer through a long and unhurried season. Nothing about it calls for attention. It simply arrives, and you receive it without thinking, and your chest loosens a little more. The frequency continues. 25 hertz does not rush. It has no interest in rushing. It moves at the pace of rest itself, unhurried, gently cycling, threading through cartilage and marrow, and the quiet space between your vertebrae where so much tension has been stored without your knowing. You feel that tension now, not as pain, but as a warmth that slowly gives, not forced open, but simply allowed to soften, like a hand that forgets, in some long and easy moment, what it had been gripping. Your jaw is slack. You may have noticed this already, or you may be noticing it only now. Your back teeth have parted from each other. The muscles along your temple have gone wide and smooth. The small bones of your face have accepted the full and ordinary weight of themselves. Your brow is as open and still as a field seen from a great and comfortable distance. A small adjustment happens near you. The warm weight shifts barely, redistributing into a new and equally easy arrangement. You hear something so close to silence that it is almost its own kind of hush. A long and unhurried exhale from the creature settled beside you, even and slow, and entirely without urgency. This too moves through you, not as vibration this time, but as permission. Something in your chest that was still faintly holding hears that sound, and at last decides to follow. Your own breath has become very slow. You do not need to do anything about this. It has found its own pace, long and shallow, and perfectly sufficient, the simplest version of itself. Your lungs fill without effort and empty without thought, and the pause between them has become a comfortable place to dwell for just a moment before moving on. The exchange of air is so quiet now that it barely registers as sound at all. The purr continues. You cannot locate its edges now. It has moved into you thoroughly enough that you cannot say with any certainty where you end and it begins. This is not a troubling thought. It is, in fact, a quiet and pleasant one. You are participating in something very old. Cats have made this sound for longer than memory can reach. Humans have lain still and received it for just as long. There is a wordless agreement written between your species, practiced in 10,000 quiet rooms across 10,000 quiet nights. A simple and unhurried exchange of warmth and frequency and mutual ease. Your thoughts, if they are still arriving, are doing so at a much greater interval now. They come like the slowest boats on a very wide river, far from shore, growing smaller as they move toward the far end of your awareness. You let them go without following. They do not need you. Nothing in this moment asks anything of you at all. The bones of you are still, and the quiet of them is deep and settled. A quiet that feels as though it has been accumulating gently for a very long time. The warm, invisible threading continues. You rest at 25 hertz, held gently, completely, in the oldest and most patient kind of peace. The purring pauses now. Just for a moment, a single breath slips through, soft and uncomplicated, and the silence it leaves behind is somehow fuller than the sound before it. You notice this, the brief interval between one noticing something in you lets go a little more. The cat beside you settles deeper. You feel it not so much as movement, but as a gentle increase in warmth, a slow spreading heat along your side, patient as sunlight crossing a wooden floor through a long afternoon. The fur under your fingertips is fine and cool near the surface, then warmer underneath, then warmer still. Layered softness all the way down to the steady living heat beneath. Your fingers are still now. They rest there without purpose, without intention, simply resting the way old stones rest in a riverbed. The cat breathes out again, a nearly silent exhalation, and you feel the faint stirring of it against your hand, lighter than a moth turning in sleep. The room has dimmed a little more. You are not quite sure when that happened. The edges of things have softened, corners grown tender, the ceiling a pale and featureless sky above you. A thin bar of silver light lies quietly across the far wall, cool and steady, doing nothing in particular. You let your gaze rest on it without focusing, without needing it to mean anything at all. It simply is there, and then your eyes close, and it becomes a remembered thing, soft and silver and still. The scent in the air is clean and faintly sweet. There is something of dried lavender in it, something of warm cotton, something that belongs entirely to this particular hour when the night has fully arrived and the world outside has set itself aside. The cat carries a scent of its own into this, something mineral and mild, fresh in the way that smooth river stones are fresh when you hold them in your palms. You draw the whole of it in slowly, and your chest expands, and then settles, and you feel the tension in your throat release, like a thread coming loose from a spool. Your breathing has found the cat's breathing without your having to arrange it. The two of you are moving gently together now, inhaling, settling, exhaling, settling, a loose and unhurried rhythm that asks nothing of you. You simply follow it. You simply allow it. There is no effort here, only the easy pull and release of air in a warm and quiet room. The purring resumes, quieter than before. It has dropped a register, softened at its edges, become less a sound you hear and more a warmth you feel. It gathers in your chest and shoulders, working slowly inward the way heat from a stone hearth seeps through a thick wall and fills a room on the other side. You feel it in your jaw, which is relaxed without your having told it to. You feel it along the backs of your hands, where the small muscles have finally released what was left of the day. Somewhere far away there is a sound, a single soft creak of a settling house. Nothing more. It comes and goes, and the quiet after it is deeper than the quiet before. The cat does not stir. Its breathing continues, fine, and even a small tide in a small sea, and you drift on it without effort, without direction, without needing to arrive anywhere at all. Eyelids have grown very heavy, not with effort, not with strain, but with the simple accumulation of calm, hour upon hour, gentle thing upon gentle thing, until there is nothing left to do but close. You let them close. The darkness that comes is soft, not sharp, a darkness with warmth still in it, a darkness that is only rest. The fur is warm beneath your fingers. You feel this even now, this gentle reality, the fine texture of it, this warmth that stays and stays, a summer hillside keeping its heat long after the sun has moved on. There is comfort in it. There is something ancient and good in it. This simple nearness, this breathing together without words, this small shared warmth in the middle of the night. A faint scent of something floral moves through the room, cool and barely there, jasmine or something close to it, carried in on a breath of night air from somewhere. It passes without lingering, and the warmth closes back and around you, and the cat breathes on, and you breathe on with it. You are very still now. Your body has become heavy in a pleasant way, pressed gently into the bed, cradled there. Each part of you finding the soft surface beneath it and releasing. Your shoulders are down. Your hands are open. Your feet have gone warm and loose at the ends of your legs. There is a pleasant softness at the edges of things, a gentle dissolving of the outlines of yourself. The purring is very soft now. It has become something you feel only in the quietest part of your chest, a small steady note, more memory than sound. The cat has settled its chin somewhere near your arm, and its eyes are fully closed, lashes fanned against pale fur, completely given over to sleep, already somewhere warm and deep. You are following it there. You follow as a leaf follows a slow current, without resistance, without hurry, drifting gradually into the deeper and stiller water. There is no arrival point you need to reach. There is no moment you need to catch. There is only the drift and the warmth and the quiet spreading through you like ink in still water. Your thoughts have grown loose and unhurried, moving the way light moves through deep water, refracting gently, bending without breaking. A shape rises softly and dissolves. Another comes and goes. They are not troubling. They are simply the mind setting itself aside, the way you set down a cup at the end of an evening, gently, with care, with the knowledge that it will be there in the morning. The cat breathes in and breathes out and breathes in. You breathe in and breathe out and breathe in. The warmth is everywhere now, in your hands, in your chest, in the soft space behind your eyes. The scent of the room is gentle and known. The darkness behind your eyelids has gone a deep and restful blue. a blue with no edges, a blue that is simply rest itself, wide and soft and without end. The purring has grown so quiet now that it is almost indistinguishable from silence. Almost. There is still that faintest vibration, that small and steady presence beside you, patient and warm and wholly at peace. You feel it like the last note of a song held just long enough to dissolve into the air that holds it. And then it is simply silence. Soft, warm, breathing silence. You are here. You are still. You are safe. The night wraps gently around you both, and nothing stirs, and sleep slips all the way in.